All right. Can everyone hear me okay? You should all be in now. I just want to confirm that you can all hear as people come in. Just allowing some folks in. Yes, okay, good. Thank you, Irene, for confirming that you can hear me all right. This is admittedly my first time doing the webinar feature for our Zoom. I usually do meetings with students that are not using our webinar feature. So I, want to make sure that it's working for everyone, but it appears that everyone can hear me and everyone can see me. So that's good. We're going to go ahead and get started then. As people come in, I just want to welcome you all. My name is Annie Kondas. I'm the Director of Employer Relations and Career Development here at Dickinson College. And when I say here at Dickinson College, I am broadcasting from my office space, once bedroom, but now converted office space here. And I do have two dogs and they are silently sleeping right now, but let's hope that they don't make any noise. So I do apologize if they start running around, but they are sleeping right now, so we should be good. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, which will go into our presentation mode. I'm going to recommend that if you have questions at any point, you can definitely put them up into the question panel in the webinar, and I will happily get to them at the end. I will do my best to keep this program no more than an hour because I know people have to get back to work. But if I don't answer your question at that time, I will follow up with you via email. So, so feel free to use that question and answer portion of this. All right, we're going to go ahead and move ahead with our program today. And, I will say talking with parents about career explorations because career exploration for your children, because you are absolutely one of the most critical people in your student's life in helping them make decisions about what's the best next step for their career. And so I can't tell you how much influence you do have over them and how important your reaction is when they start talking about careers or how your support and guidance is to that. So just know that you're major players in this, even though your students many of them are 22 years old. And you think that you don't have influence over them. You absolutely do, and you absolutely have had influence over them for the last many years of their life. For those that are just joining us, I want to welcome you to our program today. You'll see here what we'll be covering. It's a lot of material. We're going to talk a lot about what the current market looks like. I had to do some major revisions from last year to this year on this slideshow because of the changes in the market. And it's important to address that as students start to look for opportunities, both for internships as juniors and as seniors. So we're going to look at that. We're going to talk about the career decision-making process a little bit, what a student would need to do to be career ready, look at some industry timelines and when your student should and shouldn't be looking for opportunities. Well, they should always be looking, but better times than other times. We're going to look at how to support your students and then some upcoming programs of interest and some resources that you might want to guide your student to. Okay. So let's talk about the current job climate. And, I definitely, when I was developing this presentation, I was hesitant, what do I say? Do I share the positives? Do I go into COVID-19. And, you know, I really thought it would be helpful to be direct. We're pretty direct with our students, and giving them the resources to best help. And so as you can see on the screen here, that you can see that what our current job climate looks like, both for the national landscape and for our students. So last year, the unemployment rate was 3.7% when I gave this presentation, and right now it's at 8.4%. And that's overall unemployment rate for everyone, not college students. You can see the unemployment rate for the different years, 2019, 2020. I don't think I have to explain why that is. Our average starting salary, as well as, this is the key number I want you to really look at and why Dickinson is different and we're doing things differently. 58.7% of the class of 2018 right now is employed full-time 6 months after graduation. I do not want you to freak out about that, because the Dickinson number is 98% from the class of 2018. And so we have tended to our percentage-wise of employed in graduate school and in fellowships is significantly higher than the national average. Right now, we're calculating our 2019-2020 rates. It takes about a year to figure out that 6-month rate after graduation, so we're working on that. But we have traditionally fared significantly higher than students. We're right now working with our class of 2020 to get all that data in and look at that. So I do want you to feel comfortable that we are doing everything we can to promote opportunities to students, to bring in employers, to have them launch both in an internship or in a job for the seniors out there. So I do want you to feel comforted in that. And then for those that are juniors, parents, 94% of our students completed internships in research in the class of 2019. We're able to capture that easier because as they do them, we capture that content. So you know that that's our 2019 number there. It will change for 2020. We had many students have internships canceled this year. Was not their fault. It was, you know, obviously the situation. With that being said, there are some industries that are doing better than others. And I think it's important for our students and you to be aware of that. So you can see here, there are certain confidence scores that we give industries. This one's from the LinkedIn Workforce Confidence Index that was completed at the end of this summer. So I think it was completed late July. And so what it really looked at are industries that are faring better than other industries. And we're being really open with students about this. You know, maybe you had your heart set on a job in recreation and travel, or design, or media and communications. Those industries are being hit at a different rate than other industries. So as you can see in this graphic here, that, let me just pull something up really quick. Trying to pull up our chat to make sure that there's nobody saying they can't see this. If you can't see this, put it in the questions thing, because I can't see our chat right now with everything I have going on. Just feel free to put it in questions if you're having trouble. But you can see here that our least confident score are in recreation, travel, design, media. So for students that really have their heart set on that, I'm going to talk with you about how we're working with students to pivot into those fields, potentially eventually, knowing that those fields are not hiring at the rate that other fields are. We've not seen much change in public administration, law, manufacturing, finance, software, healthcare. These are the industries that we see, you know, pretty much on par, if not more. We're actually seeing more growth in public administration. Education is definitely, when this was even the snapshot, there were fewer teaching jobs. We're actually seeing more and more now as people are making decisions about if they want to go back into teaching or retire from teaching. So as students are talking with us, we're having these conversations with them about what it means to pivot into a career, maybe take something this year that is going to give them the skills they need to pivot in the future into their desired opportunity. So I like to show this graphic, and I think this graphic resonates with all of us. There's expectation of what a job trajectory is going to look like, and there's reality. This isn't a COVID description or a COVID picture. I use this with every student in every year that I talk with, that people always think when I'm in kindergarten, what am I going to be when I grow up? And then it's going to go like this. You're going to get this entry-level job. It's going to turn into this mid-level job. It's going to turn into this senior job. And then I'm on a trajectory. But the reality is most jobs that are in the market today won't exist when our students are 30, 40, 50 years old. And many jobs that aren't in the market today will be the hot jobs when they're 20 or when they're 30, 40, 50 years old. You can think about yourself. I know that, when I was in college, the big hot jobs were accounting. Everyone wanted to be in accounting, finance. They wanted to work for IBM. They wanted to work for HP. And that if we don't apply those same rules to the market now, because things like digital marketing and media did not even exist when I was in the college recruiting process. So I think it's really important that students start to understand early that what the career path that they're putting themselves on will change. They will pivot constantly, and they will be moving in different directions as they learn new skills. And so what we're trying to do is teach them to be able to do that. So you can see here, when we're talking with students about what they hope to get into after graduation, either through an internship as a junior or a job as a senior, we're talking to them about skills that they're going to be able to get. And so, for instance, if you look at here, we are really trying to push this idea of career agility. So the ability to have some core competencies that are preferenced in the job market now, and how they can use that to pivot within the next few years. So I like to use this when a student will come to me, or sometimes I actually use this more with alumni when they come to me and say, I'm doing this job right now and I'd love to get here. So they have one job in one industry and they want to get to a different job in a different industry. Maybe that's their goal, is to eventually work in the entertainment industry, but we know the entertainment industry is not doing great right now. So what we'll try to work with them on is, okay, the entertainment industry is not hiring in this time of the pandemic, but what maybe you want to do marketing in that industry. We know that the public administration industry is in high recruitment right now. So is there something that you can do around in here that might be a similar job in a different industry that is going to take you 3 pivots to eventually get into a different job in a different industry, rather than having you throw in the towel and say, well, entertainment's not hiring. I guess I'll go and work somewhere in manufacturing on the line because that is what's hiring. And so we have those conversations with students all the time. How do you bring yourself along this spectrum in this pivot chart to feel that you can pivot eventually? This also really holds true to students that maybe weren't able to get an internship because of COVID this year, and they have some skills, maybe working at a summer camp that they worked at maybe their first year and sophomore year, didn't feel like they got the experience they were hoping for this summer. And so how do they jump into a job market? It might not be that they are able to jump exactly into what they wanted to do because they are missing that key skill or that key experience. And so what we're trying to do with them is get them to as close as possible with this current climate. I would not be having this conversation with you last year, and it's the first time I'm really going down this trajectory, but we are working very hard to make sure that students are launching and launching into positions that they're gonna be well positioned to be able to move very quickly. Okay. So with that in mind, this is a graphic that I share with a lot of students, is really preparing them for this launch, whether it be into an internship or a job. And you can see here, these are things they can't control. They absolutely can't control, but there are things that they can control. And what we want them to start doing now, as in that first semester of this year, is to really be developing the skills that they can control. Things like their interviewing skills, their networking and getting to know more people in their field. attending workshops, attending job fairs, doing the things they need to become launch ready. And so sometimes they will focus on what's out here, and we really want them to be focusing on what's in here instead, and not letting them get hung up on this, because they can't control it, and that's okay. But there is a lot that they can control to move forward, rather than just giving up and saying, well, this isn't my year, I'm gonna wait. With that being said, the liberal arts students are doing better. We're faring better than other students because we can pivot. So these are just some articles that you may have read, in the last few years about that our students out earn other students, that they do better in the long run here. So every year, the National Association of Colleges and Employers release a list. What this association is, it's a list of our partner employers that we partner with to help with recruiting our students. And they come out with a list of what they want to see in students. And then it's our job to make sure that our students are graduating with those core competencies. So what you'll see here is the list from last year, or the 2019-2020 year. They haven't come out with their list yet. Hopefully it will be soon, of all of our partner employers and what they're looking for in a resume and in a candidate. What you won't see on this list is you won't see, which is odd, and I thought this was odd, but what you won't see is someone that can use Photoshop, someone that can use, I don't know, I'm trying to think of another tech skill, that can code in Java, somebody that can, read a spreadsheet. Of course, they want students that can do those things, but what they're really looking for when push comes to shove is students that can do this. And so what we're trying to do is develop these skills in the students over the next few years or year, if your student's a senior, through our coaching, our career coaching, through our mentoring, through engaging them in activities to develop these skills. And this is what our students are very, very good at. They're very agile in their workforce. They're not stuck in a linear path. And so that's what we're trying to do. But what we're also trying to do with them is to have them decode job descriptions to be able to say, I know you're interested in going into digital media. Have you noticed consistencies in the digital media jobs that you're looking at? And sometimes they'll come back to me and say, yeah, it really seems like I need to know Google Analytics. And I'll say, yeah, have you seen that in a lot of jobs? And they'll say, yeah, it's pretty much in every job description. I'll say, do you know Google Analytics? And they say, well, not the best. And so what I will do is really push them, and what our staff will do, our whole staff will does this, is to push them to say, all right, how are you going to learn Google Analytics in the next month? There's Coursera courses, there's lynda.com courses that are free, that are going to bring students up to speed. Because what employers are looking for is they are looking for those tangible skills that students can use on their resume that says that they know Google Analytics, Java, that they know how to use Photoshop, these kind of hard skills. But what they're really looking for ultimately in an employee is the soft skills. The hard skills might get them the interview. It's the soft skills that are going to get them the job. So I really want that to be emphasized, that they need both and that they should be working on both. And if they're not sure what they need to learn to be successful in the job market, maybe through a quick online course or using their winter break to take even a course at a community college in something, or just studying it on their own, we're happy to help them do that to be career ready. We know they have the core competencies. Now it's just working on making sure that those job descriptions that they want match up to what they're looking for. These are some other graphics that employers said about our students, about liberal arts students, and how in general they fare better in the interview process. So I'm gonna, you can see here they're able to articulate themselves better because of the work they've done. All right, so I want to show you our career model, our career decision-making and launch model. Ultimately, what we're most interested in with students is that what they decide to pursue, both for an internship and for a job, really reflects their authentic interest. Career satisfaction is going to be around 4 areas: their personality, their values, their interests, and their skills. If all four of these areas are incongruent, a student's going to feel more satisfied, or a person's going to feel more satisfied in their career. When one of those things are off, that's when you start to get that dissatisfaction, or when someone's pushing a maybe career on them that doesn't fit with their personal values or their interests. That's when you're going to feel that. So when we're working with students to decide, maybe they have an idea of what they want to do for an internship or first job. Maybe that first job is, I know I want to do finance, but I don't know exactly the type of firm. Do I want to go big bank? Do I want to do small boutique firm? That's where we're having those conversations. And we have tons of assessment tools to help them with that decision making. But there will be a disconnect if, a student that is a great student and an economics major, and we're always pushing them towards the big names because that's what we know and that's what we feel. But if that's not congruent with them in their authentic interests, they're never going to feel like they can really reach their full potential in an interview. So we work on them with that. You can see here, after kind of assessing that, we encourage them to explore through their network, through internships, as well as have some experience here, and then ultimately launch. The reason that this is kind of cyclical is because you're constantly in your life bouncing back to assess. You're constantly bouncing back to it. You don't, right when you graduate college, you launch, but oftentimes about 3 years into your job, or maybe even 1 year, you're back to assessing. Do I like this? And the ability to assess and continue to assess is what is going to help your student have a lifelong career where they feel engaged, excited, be motivated, as well as be promoted in that field. If there's a wrong fit and they're not reassessing, they're going to get on that linear path and it might start to go like this. And what we want to see is, yes, some jumping around, of course, but we want to see that ultimately working towards what they want to do in that. So how do we do that with students? We take one-on-one appointments as well as we do group workshops to help students with opportunity searches. So the first thing is we talked about, we assess. So when I work with a student, I might say to them, I want you to narrow down to 1 or 2 industries, 1 or 2 job types. What I don't like to work with a student on is somebody that comes and says, well, not that I won't work with them, I like working with them, but I want to get them to this place, is where they come and they say, I am really interested. If they come to me and say, I'm interested in everything, I'll do anything. That's going to be a hard sell to an employer in an interview. If they say, well, I'll do anything, I'm smart, I'll do anything. The reason is because they're then not able to articulate the why, and the why do they want to do this. We want them to be able to articulate what excites them about that organization, what excites them about that job, and what skills do they have to be able to do that job. In order to do that, we really want to see students start to narrow around their senior year to maybe 2 industries, maybe 2 job types. This will allow us to tailor their resumes. This will allow us, or help them tailor their resumes, help them tailor their cover letters, and get them keyed into the right job search clubs, industry clubs, or these are some things we offer to help them get connected to the right people. Versus if they're super open, that's great that they're really interested in a lot of things, but it's a lot harder to then figure out where to apply for jobs. How many applications should I put in? What's a reasonable, should I go to the job fair? Should I not go to the job fair? Is my industry going to be represented? If you don't know what you're going for, and that's where we can help them. So we then work with them on a SWOT analysis of their industry and job type. These are things like the strengths that they bring, the weaknesses that maybe they need to work on. So these are some skills that you're going to need to work on maybe over winter break to bring yourself up to having a resume that is super desirable for an employer. The opportunities that are in that industry, is it a growth industry? Is it an industry that's big in Washington, D.C., but not necessarily in New York? So I work with students to help them understand where that might be the best fit for them as far as the niches within those industries in the growth areas or the areas that are shrinking. And then threats. What are the threats to this industry? I think I started this presentation with a lot of threats. This is what the economy is looking like. This is what's going. I'm really open with students. We talk about that. It helps them get a great picture of where the jobs are moving in that industry. So we run a SWOT analysis with our students to help them understand. Okay. Then after that, we'll start doing a prospect list and people list. So this is where we help students make lists, their tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 of companies. And we start working with them on, or not necessarily companies, organizations. And we start working with them on their tier 1 list, which might be their big brands, the big organizations they love to work with. The tier 2 list being maybe organizations that are more boutique or mid-size that we have great connections with, or that we know those employers are coming to recruit our students. And then tier 3 lists, which are the lists that someone says, you should go apply for this firm, and they put that on. Those lists are always growing and changing as their industries are growing and changing, even throughout the year. So we work on them with that. After that, we also help them create a people list. We have some resources for networking. We have our own internal networking, our Dickinson networking platform that helps them network with each other and with alumni and parents in the field. If you would like to sign up for that because you're willing to help a student or your organization's hiring, it's called a Dickinson Alumni Fire. I have the link here. It will be on a future slide, but I would highly encourage you to do that if you're willing to help our students. We have a team of employer relations folks that are out there all the time looking for opportunities for our students, getting our parents and alumni to be willing to put themselves out there on Alumni Fire to help and mentor our students looking for different opportunities in different industries and give them great advice. So then we're working with our students to create that people list too. Who do they know? Who can we connect them with? After that, we start working with them with career action plans. What are the things that you need to be doing this week to move your job search along? What's the thing you need to be doing this month to move your job search along? And what are the things that really, what's your goal and what you should be doing? That could either come through working with us individually, or we have our pathways online, which I'll show you in a second, that students can work through on their own. And then there's, of course, apply for positions in network and interview for positions. Okay. So recruiting timelines. Before I get into this, I want to let you know that I am seeing your questions that are coming in, and I will address them at the end for sure, especially there's a good chance I might cover some of it in the later slides. So recruiting timelines. We work with students at different times during the year, and I do have to do a lot of, it's okay, I know all your friends have jobs, it's not your recruiting season yet. So recruiting seasons are industry dependent. And we want students to know that. We want them to know when their industries are recruiting so that they don't miss their hiring season. And also we want them to know that they're recruiting at certain times so they don't become anxious that they're not being hired at that time. So you can see here in this slide, the darker the section, that's the hiring season. So right now we're working heavily with our students in tech that are going into tech. Specifically that are doing tech roles. So software engineers, software developers, a lot of our computer science majors, our math majors. Government recruits all year round, but I usually am trying to encourage students to get started now. Finance, which I don't, where's the finance? No, I'm not seeing it, but I know it should be on here. Finance and consulting are our other two big ones. There's consulting there, and there's finance that are starting now that I'm usually really hitting heavy. We are doing a finance, tech, and government job and internship fair here at the end of September because those are key industries that are hiring right now. We're also heavily running right now our finance consulting programs, workshops, and info sessions for employers. So if your student is in those areas or wants to be in those areas, they really should be moving. However, you can see some of our later industries here are healthcare, law, marketing communications. Those tend to be a little later, which is good because those marketing communications has been impacted by the pandemic, and it gives us more time for those industries. So within this, once our students know the industry, there are some things that students need to check off to be career ready. These are not mandatory items. However, it's hard to pass. I would say to students, it's hard to pass go unless you do some of these things. So you can see here that we work with students to make sure that they have all of these elements complete before they graduate, so that they feel that they know what they're kind of getting into as they prepare for the job search. We work with students and alumni forever. So we don't turn them away the second they graduate. So if a student says, I would like to wait on my job search until I graduate, that's absolutely okay. It still means we want them to be doing some of these things because we don't want them to get behind, and you never know when someone's going to say, send me your resume. Or, you never know when those things are going to happen. So it's really, really important that they have these things kind of set and ready to go. So even if they want to wait till after graduation, we will gladly work with them after graduation and through their first transition. If they decide that they want to change jobs 3 years into their career, we will work with them. But we do really want them junior, senior year to be working through our curriculum and working through all our checklists that we want them to do. All of our checklists are available on our website under career development, and we have what they're called is 4-year pathways. So here's year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4. Now, if your students, one of those is a type of student that maybe has been more resistant to come see us, they may want to start with year 1. It doesn't mean that they are behind. It just means that they're coming late to the game and they need to get through these first 3 years in our checklist. So all those things that I talked about in our checklist before are captured here. In there, you can see this is our year 1. So we have 2 things a student must do in year 1. They need to activate their Handshake account, which is our job and internship account for them to be recruited and for them to apply for opportunities, as well as create their resume. So it goes to this. So that if your senior or junior has not done these 2 things, they're going to need to go back to year 1. What we do is one of our first inventories when we meet with a student is we sit down with them and we assess where they are. Have you done year 1? Have you done year 2? That's fine. Let's go back. It might take a few extra appointments to catch them up, but they'll be caught up right away with what we want them to do to be launch ready by the time that they graduate. So if your student is not on Handshake, or if you are an employer that wants to provide opportunities to our students, our platform is Handshake, which is our platform that promotes all of our internships, all of our research opportunities, our jobs, both on campus and off-campus opportunities, scholarships, fellowships. So all of our opportunities are here. I looked yesterday, we have 7,000 opportunities in there right now. I think of those, about 2,000 of them are internships. The rest are employment opportunities. So we don't have a shortage of opportunities. What I say to students, it's not hard finding opportunities. It's hard making the time to apply for them and putting in the effort to have your documents clean, proofread. The cover letters are written to address what the employers are looking for rather than just fishing and throwing out your resume to everyone. So the opportunities are there. Now we just want students to create an action plan to be able to apply and network within those organizations to be able to obtain those opportunities. So if you might want to ask your student, do you have a Handshake account? What's going on in Handshake? You can't get into it to see the job and internship opportunities. However, if you want to look at them, just ask your student if they could pull up their Handshake account. There's a profile they need to complete in there with their major, their GPA, their picture, their experiences. They can upload a resume, and employers can also find them, and they can become visible to employers. And the algorithm will work to point them towards employers that they might be interested in. But they need to put that into their profile. The industries they're interested in, the job opportunities, the locations, and that will all populate for them and point them in the directions of employers that might be a good fit for them. It is also our employer database. So as we are making employer connections, we put our contacts in there, and students can then go and see, oh, it looks like there's an alum from 1989 at Lockheed Martin who's willing to talk with me. We also have that capability on Alumni Fire, which is our mentoring and networking platform. So students have a ton of resources. It's just about going forward and utilizing them. And we're happy to help them. I talked about networking resources, and we do programs. We actually have a program today at 4:30. So if you want to tell your students to go to it, we have a program today that is going to go over how to access networking resources and how to talk to our alumni and our parents about job opportunities. So that's at 4:30 today. It's in Handshake. If you want your students to go to that, they can learn how to use all these different platforms to be able to network. But I wanted to put those up there. The other program that we are launching this year is that every student will have an assigned launch technician to them. So I have a cohort of students. I have a cohort of first-year students that I'm helping launch into kind of the career exploration, and then I have a cohort of senior students. All your students will get, and then we have other staff that are sophomores and juniors. I just tend to have first years and seniors. Your student will get an email from their launch technician. I think seniors will get their launch technician email around winter break. And basically we are the person that's assigned to your student to make sure that they are launching and to help them launch. We can't make them launch. I won't say make sure, I'll say that to help them launch. And so we'll look at what they've done, where they interned, how many jobs they've applied to, and we'll be kind of following and tracking just to make sure that they're kind of moving along that pathway. We'll talk with them about their goals, what they want to get out of this year, and then we'll continue working with them until they find what they want to do after graduation. We did this with our class of 2020. When everything was going down, we said, let's assign everyone to a different advisor. And that's been really successful in pushing that class along and helping them connect with employers. So we will be doing that. Upcoming events of interest I want to make you aware of, that we do have our job and internship fair. Our first one is for finance, tech, and government, and then our all industry one is in October. Students will need to attend a program before that so that they can prepare and feel ready and confident when they go into that opportunity. It is a virtual fair, which we've never done before. We're giving it a try. We are partnering with Gettysburg and Mount St. Mary's to put on that fair. I will let you know that that fair, there are certain industries that recruit through fairs and there are industries that don't recruit through fairs. So I get a lot of students will say, I don't see anything for me there. And sometimes I'm just honest with them and say, your industry, it's a one in, one out. It's an on-demand hiring industry. They're not hiring cohorts of students. They're less likely to go to a fair like this. These fairs tend to be really good for accounting, finance, tech, government, sometimes consulting. That's really where you see a lot of people attend because they have to hire large cohorts of people to fill their roles. So just help your students understand that if they feel like there's not something for them there. Other programs and workshops that we have running, these are all in Handshake, the times, dates, and links, they're all virtual. But you can see here the different programs that we're running through the rest of the semester, and then we'll duplicate and run them again for the spring. We also have them all recorded on our website, so if at any point they can't make it, they can go and listen to me do exactly this on our website. A question did come up that will this webinar be recorded? It absolutely will be recorded. If you attended the webinar, I will send you an email with the copy of our slideshow and our recording so you have all the links and you can share that with your student. So the last thing I want to go over before we get into questions is about how do you encourage your student? How, especially during this time where I know I've talked to a lot of parents that say they want their student to launch, they want them to feel confident, but they also know that it's a tough market and they've been more gracious. I see parents being more gracious with maybe what they thought than what they thought they were going to be. And so, you know, one of the things that I really hope that you can impart on your student is that this is a moment in time that for many of them, they feel like it's everything, because in their short 19 years, this is 1 or 2 years out of their life. But in the grand scheme of things, their career is going to change, it's going to grow, it's going to pivot, and that this is a great time for them to learn skills, maybe different skills than they didn't think they were going to be able to use. So things around skills is helping them articulate their skills. So helping them think through, maybe they had a lifeguarding job, maybe they had a job at a camp or an internship at a nonprofit. You know, what skills did you learn? You have those lists of competencies that employers are looking for now in the PowerPoint. Helping them see, what sort of cognitive development skills did you learn from this? Or what sort of creative writing skills did you learn from this? And helping them map everything they've done to those top 10 skills. That will be huge when they're going into interviews and someone says, tell me about a time that you worked with a diverse audience of people. Having them, working with them to come up with the time that they maybe were on their lacrosse team and worked with students from all over the world and a very diverse team to be able to win the championship. So it's those sort of things that if you can use those skills to help them think through their entire college experience and how they gained those skills, that would be huge. And it would save them, we of course want them to come to appointments with us, but that's a way that you can support in the appointments that we're doing. Asking the question, how can I support you? I think students sometimes want you to support them. They really do. They're afraid to ask you for help, or they don't want your help, or they want your help in a certain way, but not another way. So maybe they want you to critique their resume for them, recognizing that we all have different industries. So it's important to recognize that you might have a law industry resume in mind and they're writing one for communications, and those are very different. But can you critique my resume? Then the next point I have is help with networking. I have some friends in this field I could introduce you to. Sometimes students are afraid to ask you of that, but they also, the second they ask you, they're asking you for a specific thing. They're not necessarily asking you for everything. They don't want you to do it for them, and you can't do it for them. Employers, that's looked poorly upon if you're the one that is doing their interviews for them. You can't do that. So asking them how they can support you and listening to what they say and trying to stay back if they don't say that they want help in a certain area, because it's just going to frustrate them. I mentioned networking if asked. So students are really hesitant to do this. And I always encourage them that if their parents are connected to a certain industry, that they should use their parents. I think they think that they're cheating or not doing it themselves, or it's not appropriate to use their family connections. And it is absolutely appropriate. We tell students all the time, your family knows you and wants you to succeed more than anyone else. So if they're willing to help you with connections, you should utilize them. Absolutely. It shouldn't be seen as nepotism when they're helping, because ultimately you're still going to need to interview for the job. You're still going to need to apply. Usually your parents just don't get you a job. It's usually they introduce you to someone. We can still help students on how to have that informational interview with your contact. So if you're willing to help in that way and they're looking for it, great. But some of them, I've heard a lot of students say, I don't want my parents' help. And I understand. Talk to them about your career path. I'm sure your career path has changed. You haven't been the same thing your entire life. So talk to them about the pivots you made or the skills that you made. I remember my dad talking with me all the time about how he was a park ranger, right? When he graduated college, he was a park ranger. He he just retired after a very good career as a probate attorney. So park ranger and attorney, how did you get from park ranger to writing wills and estates for people? And he talked to me about that, and it was really interesting. So I'd say talk about your career path and what brought you to where you are. And then encourage programs and workshops. I think that in this virtual space, we all have Zoom fatigue, and it's hard to go to programs and workshops when you're in front of a computer all day. But right now it's what we're able to offer with not being on campus. So I think it's It's important that they go to those because then they can get the core elements, and then we can work with them on informational interviewing skills and salary negotiations. If they can go to those workshops, we then don't have to spend our time in meetings teaching them how to use Alumni Fire or LinkedIn because they already went to that workshop. And we can focus on what's going to really help them get the job, which is being able to articulate themselves and articulate their skills rather than the basics that they can get in a workshop. Okay, so that was a lot. I'm welcome to take questions. We have about 15 minutes. So what I'm going to do is read some of the questions that came in live, and then if you have questions as well. If a question's really specific, I'm just going to be honest with some of them that I might not know. Like if someone says, what's the percentage of history majors that are employed? I might not have that on hand, but I can absolutely find that for you. So I might have to say, I'll get back to you on that. Okay. So someone asked, will this be available? Yes, it will be. It will be recorded. I'll send it to you. So the question that came in is, how should a student view their strategy if the desire is to go on to graduate school? There are some ideas here that certainly apply to the approach as well. Yeah, so a lot of students are saying that they are looking at going to graduate school right away because of the market, that they think that they want to go directly into graduate school. And I will say that, you know, that's one approach that is absolutely an approach worth exploring if the career that they want will need a graduate degree, or if the career they want is so different than what they've studied that they need to jump into that. I'm going to give you some examples. So accounting. We have a articulation agreement with American University for accounting. You cannot really be an accountant, especially a CPA, without those courses. And so there are some students I know that prior said, well, I'm going to go work in finance, and then I'm going to go back to school in a few years to get my courses work that I need to become a CPA. Great. What I'm seeing a lot of students do now is say, you know what, I know I want to be a CPA. I'm probably going to take this year and do our extra year with articulation with American University and get my coursework to be able to be a CPA. So a lot of people are factoring graduate school into their strategy because they know that the job market maybe for what they want to do isn't the best. So it absolutely is a strategy. We don't push graduate school on students unless they either know really what they want to do or they need the degree to be able to progress in their career. The reason I say this is because a graduate degree can be an investment, and it's an investment in time, both time and money. And if a student doesn't know what they want to do, it's not like undergrad. In undergrad, you go and you explore. Graduate school is really meant for somebody that knows that what they want to do with that degree and how that degree is going to help them. So you don't apply for 10 different types of programs when you apply to graduate school. You typically apply to one type of program at maybe 5 to 7 different schools. So we are seeing more students go to graduate school. However, it's not something that we necessarily encourage every student to do. We only encourage those students that know what they want to do and need a degree to pursue that. Otherwise, I'd rather see them go in to a maybe different industry and gain skills that they might need. Or if they need certain skills that because they're pivoting to another degree or another area of interest that they didn't pursue at Dickinson, sometimes it's easier to go get a certificate, go into a certificate program that's like a 6-month online certificate, or even a community college, a few classes at a community college to get some of those skills to pivot. So graduate school isn't always what's in it. I hope I answered that. It could be a loaded question. I hope I went in the direction that you were hoping for. Okay, will there be virtual internships and or job fairs this year? What else is being offered virtually for students looking for summer 2021 internships? So I think I covered this. I think you may have asked this before, but we are having a virtual job and internship fair. We have partnerships with Parker Dewey, which is a virtual micro internship company that it's on our website. It's called Parker Dewey if you want to Google that or put it into the search on our website. And what Parker Dewey does is it's project-based work for students that is all virtual. So there are a lot more companies doing virtual internships, and we're seeing a lot of virtual internships start to pop up in what we call the J term, or the term between Thanksgiving and mid-January. Since more colleges are opening that time, we're seeing a lot of virtual internships starting to be offered over that time. We do have an internship workshop, and we have a ton of virtual workshops that will help students with that. But what we're seeing more and more is in a Handshake, we're seeing, I think I did a poll about a week ago and probably found about 500 virtual internship opportunities for, they're not really looking for virtual yet for summer 2021. I think people are hoping they'll be in person, but Parker Dewey micro internships is something they can absolutely pursue at any time during their college career, and it's all virtual. So we are absolutely, we've pivoted very quickly to be able to offer our students virtual opportunities. So this is another graduate school question. Someone asked about graduate school and should mention that they were a math major and should they recommend going to graduate school. We did a graduate school workshop. I think it was last Thursday, we had a graduate school workshop. We had 65 students attend, which is quite high for us for graduate school in our attendance. There is a recording of that. I would encourage your student to watch that recording. So if you're on here listening to that question, it goes through very, very detailed information about who should consider graduate school and who shouldn't. Math major, you know, there are a lot of jobs right now in data and math, and that's not an industry we're seeing shrinking. So there are opportunities in that area. We're not seeing a ton of math majors go off into graduate school unless they know exactly what they want. If they know that they want to do data science and that's what they want to do, we are seeing some students pursue graduate degree in things like data science or going back and doing a computer science master's because they want to be a software engineer. And they don't feel like their math major is going to get them there as quickly. But we also see a lot of math majors come out and become analysts and then eventually move into those roles without a graduate degree. So it is a calculation that you take, but I really encourage, if you're thinking graduate school, your students thinking graduate school, to find that. It's on our website, and the students can also email me and I can send it to them, that recording of that workshop, because it goes into depth of who should and shouldn't pursue graduate school right now. And really when I say who should and shouldn't, there's not a yes or no. It's these are people that may want to consider it. These are industries that probably don't need it in. Okay, so those are all the questions that came in. If you have others, feel free to type them up at this point. But do know that I will have this recording if you want to show it to your student. There are absolutely no secrets here. We're pretty upfront with what we're facing with the graduating class of 2021 and our junior class of 2022 that are looking for internships. We are absolutely hoping by the time that they graduate that things are back to normal, but we are preparing them for things to be in transition for a while. So I just want you to know that we're working very hard to make sure that your students launch into an authentic interest area. So at this point, I don't see any other questions coming in, so I'm going to go ahead and sign off, and thank you once again for coming, and I really look forward to working with your students for the rest of their time here at Dickinson and even after. So thank you.